Oh, let me introduce myself. Name's Felix. Felix, well, you can call me Felix. I had another name once, but Felix will do. I work for Herod. Now, that's a funny thing to say, isn't it? I work for Herod. I'm one of his mercenaries. There's a story behind that. Let me tell you that bit first. It's very interesting. I just love how cunning our leader, our emperor in Rome actually is. You see, everybody counts us as mercenaries, but actually we're Roman auxiliaries. A few years ago, Herod had a lot of problems here in Palestine, people invading and a lot of disturbance, and the emperor sent some of the legions over just to help him out, of course. When the legion went, when the war was over, the emperor said, "How would you like me to help you by, well, you can have some of our soldiers. Well, they're not legionnaires. Well, if you pay them, they'll work for you. And I'll lend you some Roman officers just to train them. The way we fight, that might be helpful." Of course, Herod was really pleased. Of course, what he didn't realise is that we weren't mercenaries at all. We were actually part of the Roman army. We were auxiliaries. Myself and my friends around here, we came from the mountains in North Italy. Cisalpine Gaul, it's called. Gaul, this side of the Alps. Yeah, of course we're Celts. Yes, 150 years ago we were fighting the Romans. Now, we're part of the army. It's a pretty good life, actually. And when you retire, well, they give you a bit of land and everything, and you can bring up your family there. I've told some of my relatives back home, my younger brother, a lot younger than me, he's seriously considering it, but of course he's not even old enough to get married yet. It'll be interesting to see if in years to come he actually comes over here too. So yes, we're our Gallic mercenaries. That's what Herod calls us, his Gallic mercenaries. We're actually Celtic auxiliaries with Roman officers. And then, of course, there's our other friends, our other mercenary allies, people from Germania, the place Rome's conquered. They're here too, just like us, working for Herod. Well, supposedly working for Herod, but working for Rome. And then there's the Thracians, more mountain people. Notice it's all the mountain and forest people here. The ones who can find their way around countrysides. Yeah, Thracians too. All working for Herod, but actually working for Rome. It's a funny life over here. Herod, well, he's not the exactly most popular leader. Useful for Rome, though, because as long as he can keep the people down here, Rome doesn't actually have to do much. Just use us, people like us. Oh yes, and Herod's wonderful Samaritan cavalry, can't stand them. Very clever man, Herod. Uses foreigners, like us, against his own people. Yeah. Well, we've got a varied life, really. Sometimes we're up in the hill country, sometimes we're down to the coast. A lot of the time, actually, we're escorting camel trains and donkey trains, moving goods here and there, working for Herod, protecting merchants, and sometimes protecting some of Herod's own things that are moving backwards and forwards. Looking after the peace of the nation. That's what Herod reckons. Looking after Rome and making sure that nothing gets disturbed, and also keeping our eyes out. Well, we're not, but our officers are. But it is interesting, and we meet some interesting people. One I'd really like to tell you about, a man called Eli. Now, we met him when we were escorting a merchant's caravan, as they call them, down to Jericho. We saw him in action. By golly, he was only young. looked after the donkeys and the camels all right, but by golly, in action indeed. Once when we were down there, he saw something coming. Now, it might have been a bear, it might have been a lion, I don't know what it was. It was up there in the rocks. Well, Sling came out of his pouch. Pebble went in like that. Whatever it was scattered. We were impressed. Now, we got some slingers in our little group. They were very, very impressed. He's fast and he's accurate, they said. But did you know all about him? Could be useful, could be useful. Well, that evening, a few of us wandered around looking from different campfire to another. We finally found Eli with a group of other donkey and camel looker after us, as we used to call them. They got an official title, but we used to think, yeah, they look after donkeys and camels. They had donkey and camel looker afters. So we sat down and got talking. He was an interesting young man. Yeah, very interesting indeed. And he got his head screwed on. He was only doing this for a while. He was learning all the tricks of the trade, and one day he would probably, I would guess, own his own camel or donkey train. Yeah, very interesting young man. And as we got talking about where we'd come from. We told him about up in the mountains, and he was telling us all about where he came from, a little town called Bethlehem. And then we got talking about other things. We started swapping stories about things that had happened in our area, telling him about how Rome had taken us over and how we fought alongside Hannibal. Yeah, we, 150, 200 years ago, but it was us. Oh yes, it was us. Well, Eli starts telling us about his country. And he told us a very interesting story. Apparently, they didn't always live here, the Jews. Well, they had a long time before when he was going to tell us, but what he was going to tell us about was when they did live there. Here, I suppose, they lived in Egypt. What on earth were they doing in Egypt, we all asked him, and he told us a longish story about how the Jews had ended up, but now apparently, when the time of the story was telling us, they were slaves. Oh, right. What were they doing then? Oh, big building projects. Lots of big building projects, and they were pretty well kept down. They'd been there for quite a while. The families, hundreds, thousands of them there. Some of them, although they were slaves, they'd even got herds and things like that, So, how come you ended up here? Ah, said Eli. That's all to do with Moses. Moses, we said. Never heard of Moses. Who was Moses? Was he a king? Was he a leader? Oh, no. He was just an ordinary child. When he was born, it was the time when Pharaoh decided that all the young babies that were male might cause a bit of trouble when they grew up, so they had to be killed. And Moses' mother put him in a basket in the reeds down by the river Nile, and he was found by Pharaoh's daughter. To cut a long story short, he was brought up in Pharaoh's palace. Oh, wow, great. So he was a leader, he was a king. No, said Eli, no. And in fact, when he was a bit older, he was, although he'd been well looked after and brought up well for an Egyptian, he happened to be wandering down where all the building work was going on, and he saw one of these overseers really laying into some of the slaves. Moses just lost his temper. Killed the overseer. Well, everybody looked at him. Oh, you better run now, and he ran. He ran all the way down to the Red Sea, out across into Sinai. It's hot down there, he said. Not a good place to be on your own. What happened then? We asked him. Well, said Eli, to cut a long story short, and he was wonderful to say that, to cut a long story short. Cut a long story short, he got a job with a herder out there, looked after the sheep, married the daughter of the herder, and everything was going well. Life was good. And then something happened. What, did the Egyptians come after him? They all said, because we were right getting into the story now. Did the Egyptians come after him? No, nothing like that. He went after looking for some sheep that had got lost. Goes up the mountain. And you never guess what he saw. Oh, we had a good guess. All wrong. He saw a bush. Right. We all said and looked at each other. We saw a bush. But the bush was on fire. It was burning. But it was burning, but there was no heat. Well, we all got interested in this. This sounded a really good story. A bush burning up a mountain, no heat. And you never guess what, said Eli. But none of us even tried to guess. When he got a bit closer, this voice comes out of the bush that's burning. Whoa, we all thought, well, this is going to be good. And this voice said Eli, take off your shoes. This is a holy place. Well, we all looked at each other because we knew all about holy places. And yeah, you did take off your shoes if it was a holy place, but a voice from a bush. None of us wanted to interrupt him. None of us at all. He was a very good storyteller. Well, said Eli, the voice said lots of things to him. And the voice said, amongst other things, I've got a job for you, Moses. Oh, yes. This voice knew who Moses was, said Eli. Very serious. What job have you got, Lord? Said Moses. Moses thought, Lord? Eli said, well, I suppose you would say Lord, wouldn't you, if this voice was telling you to take off your shoes. It's a holy place and was speaking to him out of a burning bush that got no heat. We all nodded. Yeah, we thought, yes, you would. Yeah, anybody would. Well, the job, said Eli. You never guess what it was. Well, it was going back to Egypt. To tell Pharaoh to let the slaves go. To tell the slaves that God had got a place for them in a promised land and that you, Moses, are going to lead them. Wow, we all thought, wow, this is interesting. So Moses, said Eli, he was a clever one. He knew that if he went to ask Pharaoh, there'd be problems. He knew there'd be people over there, slaves, who knew exactly how he'd been brought up and probably wouldn't trust him. So he said to the voice in the burning bush, who shall I say sent me? Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Whose fault is it? Who's got authority to send him? Yeah, or we know all about authority. And you never guess what the voice said Eli. He said, tell them I am has sent you. I am. This time we actually asked him, what's all that about? Well, said Eli, the closest thing we can get in our language to I am, or you'd understand at any rate, is God. Oh, one of the gods. We all said, no, not one of the gods. The God. There is only one God. Now we knew that the Jews thought there was only one God. We got plenty of gods. Jews have only got one. So, said Eli, Moses went back. He went to Pharaoh. He told them that God had told him to come to tell him to let the slaves go. And he took his brother, Aaron, with him. Aaron was a good one for speaking. Moses wasn't. So Moses was sort of being there and in the official capacity, and Aaron was saying what Moses wanted him to say. They'd even got a trick to show that it really was God, said Eli. Moses' stick, when he threw it on the ground, turned into a snake. Oh, he's a magician then. No, not a magician. God did it. Oh yeah, of course. So Pharaoh, what? Pharaoh wouldn't do a thing, said Eli. I told him, what a load of rubbish. I'm not letting the slaves go, we need him. And some of the slaves weren't very happy about it either. They just didn't trust Moses at all. And, said Eli, God decided to do something about it. He sent plagues into Egypt. How plagues, now that really is acting like a god. He thought, oh yeah, all sorts of plagues, frogs, blood, you name it, things, well, locusts, but still, Pharaoh wouldn't let him go. But by now, said Eli, by now, those slaves, my ancestors, they believed Moses because they really knew that he'd got God on his side, really, and that he had got this job. So what happened? I said, because I really wanted the story to get on with. What happened then? Well, said he, God gave Moses a message to give to everybody. And this was the message. Get yourself dressed, ready for a journey. Get your family together, get food, any flocks you got, get them ready. Kill a lamb. Have a good meal, herbs, lamb, the usual. Eat it standing as if you're ready to go. And make sure you take some of the lamb's blood and put it around the top of your door. Because, said God to Moses, tell them an angel's going to come over, and everybody that hasn't got the blood of the lamb on the door is going to lose the firstborn male in their family. And not only that, the firstborn male of everything, all the herds, everything. So Moses did exactly that. And what happened? I said, because by now I was so wrapped up in the story, I really wanted it to come, tell us what happened. Well, said Eli, the angel came. And, he said, to cut a long story short, Pharaoh said, go, get out. Because a lot of the Egyptians were saying, get rid of him, this is a terrible thing happening. So they went. Off they went with the food and the flocks, and they got to the Red Sea. Oh, said one of my friends, oh, so God had provided a boat for them, had they? Or boats? No, said Eli, no, not at all, not at all. Well, how did we get across the Red Sea then, we asked. God said to Moses, said Eli, put your stick out in front of you. Why, said Moses, just put your stick out in front of you. So Moses put his stick out in front of him, and the waves parted. And there was dry land, and the people of Israel, that's what we call them, don't forget, people of Israel, like my ancestors, walked across on dry land. Whoa, we said, wow. But that wasn't the end of it, said Eli. Because while all this was going on, Pharaoh suddenly realised, hang on a minute, I've got nobody to do all my building projects. I've got nobody to work for me. So he sent his army out to fetch them all back. The people of Israel saw them coming as they were almost across the Red Sea, and they hurried up to the bank, but they were coming across. Chariots and everything, horses, you name it, cavalry. The people of Israel panicked, and God said to Moses, don't panic. Put your stick out again. So he put his stick out again, and you can guess what happened, said Eli. Before any of us could say anything, the waters closed, he said. Drowned them all. So we said, that was it. They arrived here then. Well, not really straight away. How long did it take them? 40 years. 40 years? From Sinai to here? We can do it in 2-3 weeks hard marching. Well, it didn't go like that. They just kept upsetting God. They were just messing around. They were just not trusting. And God said, you're going to have to learn to trust me. You're going to have to learn to work with each other. 40 years they were travelling there, experiencing very different things, until finally they got to a mountain overlooking our land. Canaan it was called then. God took Moses to the top of the mountain and said, there it is, Moses. You've been faithful. You've seen the promised land. I'm sorry, that's it. I did say to you, you've got a job to do, and you've done it. You've done it wonderfully. But that's it. So what happened? Moses died. Always his grave on the top of the mountains, we said. He's not one of those shrines, you see, because they are wonderful for having shrines, the Jews. They got a well named after him, they got a mountain named after the other, they got a couple of trees named after somebody else. Not God, mind you, people. Way back stories. No, said Eli. No. God took him. He went with God. There's no grave, nowhere to go to. And yes, I know what you think about us, said Eli, because obviously he'd heard of what we thought about him. There's not even a mountain named after him. At any rate, he said, I'm ready for bed. Well, thanks for telling us all that. You're a good storyteller, he said. I said, you never know. Long way to Jericho. We might meet again and might tell you something else about my country, something else about my God. We weren't sure about that. But he was a very, very, very good storyteller. And we were looking forward to meeting him again. I'm looking forward to seeing you too. See you later.